Do you think Parliament is a good role model today for diversity?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No, I mean, it's gotten better, of course, and the last election saw that. But I think particularly in the area of disability, the fact that there are only 5 MPs who are disabled is a disgrace when you consider that 1 in 5 people in this country has a disability.
But 2017 did deliver the most diverse House of Commons ever, with a rise in the number of women, LGBT and ethnic minority MPs elected. So do you recognise that there's been progress?
For sure. It's moving in the right direction, but a bit too slowly for my liking.
Right.
So when it comes to representation, especially when in the way that she's speaking of, do you agree or disagree?
So what would you like to do to accelerate that process?
Well, I think with Labour's all-women shortlist, it proved it worked. You know, for years, many leading politicians had been campaigning on this issue, Harriet Harman, Baroness McDonough, and nothing worked. And it was when they introduced all-women shortlist that we saw the number considerably increase.
And that is true, isn't it, dear Chakravarty? I mean, Blair's babes, as they were very unpolitically correctly called at the time. But it did work. It did improve the numbers dramatically of women MPs.
It did, but this is exactly the sort of thing, you know, they were considered as Blair's babes. I see what June is saying, and I have a lot of sympathy with what June is saying. My worry about sort of all-women shortlist is that it's a quick fix, which doesn't necessarily, the results you can get quite excited about, but it doesn't necessarily represent the true position of women in the society.
Well, it doesn't reflect society at large?
Well, if you're just looking at all-women shortlist, so even with Labour, for example, we've seen a lot of women MPs, you know, gracing the House of Commons, and that's great. But when it comes to their sort of leadership contest, we've not seen the women doing very well there at all. So we might give ourselves a big pat on the back saying, oh, you know, we've had these all-women shortlists and there are more women there, but exactly how much are we allowing or facilitating those women to move forward?
I think they're 2 separate issues. The issue that the Labour Party itself has with female leaders actually leading the party, that's something else, that's separate. But when you look at the new breed of female talent that came through Parliament, when you look at people like Yvette Cooper, when you look at Caroline Flint and how that paved the way for the Stella Creasy's of this world, I think actually it's worked and we need more of that.
Right. Interestingly, I mean, more young people and black minority and ethnic people turned out to vote for Jeremy Corbyn this time. But Jeremy Corbyn himself, of course, is an older white male. So it isn't just about the party being representative, is it? Because in a way, he isn't of those particular communities.
No, but what Jeremy shows is that he embraces those communities, so they feel welcomed, they feel that he is inclusive, and I think that definitely has an impact.
Right, and more people voted in 2017 than in any election for 25 years. Why, do you think?
I think that there was, partly as a result of the EU referendum. The EU referendum saw an absolutely unprecedented turnout because it galvanised and engaged people in an issue that they hadn't really sort of thought about before. And I think that part of the high turnout was a consequence of that, and people are generally, because there are such big issues on the table about the future of Britain being discussed in British politics at the moment with Brexit, I think that people are more engaged.
Well, and that engagement, of course, was seen, as you said, subsequent to that Brexit referendum in the general election. And because many people said that Britain was still run by elites, do you think that is still a common perception?
For sure. And I think that's in part what the Brexit vote was about.
Tell me, do you think that's a problem pertaining to any country where the politician is considered an elite? And do you think that's a good thing?
But what the Brexit vote showed, and I'm a staunch Remainer, but what it did show was there were communities that had been forgotten by both parties for a very long time that exercised their right to suffrage. And I think what we'll see going forward is that politicians have to listen more. And with all of this, we're just wasting talent. And by not being inclusive, we are letting so many talented people just fall by the wayside.
Right. I mean, on the issue of class, David Lammy, the Labour MP, has been attacking Oxford and Cambridge for not doing more to attract and offer places to children from poorer backgrounds, pupils from working class backgrounds. Do you think that's fair?
Well, the data shows what it shows, but I've been working with Oxford on this issue, and they're committed to addressing it.
Right.
So I think we'll see a change in about 3 to 5 years or so, but still, it's not good enough. And it's a waste for them. It's an absolute waste for them.
I mean, the figures are quite stark, the figures that I read out earlier as we were going through this piece about the numbers of people who come from poorer backgrounds, who are in law, who are in journalism. Why is that still persisting today?
I think the problem really is that there is no quick fix for these things. A lot of these institutions, exactly, a lot of these institutions have been dominated by people of a certain class, certain ethnicity, certain sex for a long time. Those things, as June herself says, are changing. It is taking a lot of time, and that definitely is a problem.
Right, so what else? If you don't like all women's shortlist, for example, is there anything else that could be done to accelerate that process?
There could be. I think the Conservative Party, with all their flaws, have done quite well in terms of the Women to Win programmes that they've had going, where they're encouraging more young people, more women, more people from ethnic minority to get engaged. And that is the first step. You know, for a lot of women, for a lot of ethnic minority people, it would have been a no-go area for too long. That is beginning to change now. It is taking time, but it is changing.
And what about the race disparity audit? I mean, one of the criticisms is, yes, all right, you've looked at the data, but there are no big solutions coming along.
But I think the publication of the data is quite an important step, and it's a pretty user-friendly website, and it can be used to highlight some of the big disparities in race. So I think that is a big and positive step forward. And I bet you anything that we use the race disparity audit data and website much more in the run-up to elections to highlight some of the problems that ethnic minority communities around the country are facing.
Did you welcome that?
I did, but what I found depressing, Jo, was that there were no solutions. And I think there's no point telling us how bad things are if you don't offer solutions. And I believe sometimes we have to shock the system.
One positive, though, we've got a female monarch, a female Prime Minister, a female President of the Supreme Court, a female BBC political editor, and a female lead host in the Daily Politics. So I think things are changing for the better.
You know how to flatter, don't you? June Sarpong, thank you very much for coming in.
Okay, so this video raises a few questions, and I need you to please help me and be honest when answering them. So when it comes to representation, should there be an age limit on that? And if you believe that it should, let me know your thoughts about that. I mean, what age should it start when it comes to politicians, and what should be the cutoff age, the retirement age? Also, why can't a white person represent a black person represent an Asian person, and so forth and so on? Why do you think representation is so important? And also, if there's anyone that's watching this video that's understanding of government from country to country, can you please let me know some similarities from the US government compared to governments all around the world? Also, please don't hesitate when it comes to sharing this video. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel.